Here it is, everyone, your Wasteland reviewer, and the moment is here. My number two most anticipated film of the year, Thor Ragnarok, and sure did it Ragnarok. I was so excited for this film. As the days kept getting closer, I kept getting hyped up so much for this film, and boy did it deliver. I'm going to say, this isn't going to be my highest rated film in terms of like an actual film, but this was my favorite film of this year. I had so much fun. There are some drawbacks, and I'll talk about them in a little bit, but I just loved this film. I thought it was the most fun experience I've had in a theater this whole entire year. It hit everything that I wanted and so much more. And let's talk about it. Now, I am a huge fan of Taika Waititi and his work with What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt of the Wilder People, two of my favorite films. Hunt of the Wilder People was my number 3 film of last year, and you should totally go check it out. And if you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows, fantastic vampire dark comedy mockumentary. Yeah. So go check them out. But Taika Waititi does such an amazing job with this film, and what he's able to do with the storytelling, this feels so jaunting and just like you're just so well paced, and you're just flying through this film at a fever pitch, and it's just so much fun, bringing up so much energy, but hitting like some dark things. And honestly, this film, and I'm not surprised with this being a Taika Waititi film, deals with some dark things in a very awkward, abrupt, and honestly realistic way. And dealing with loss and like themes like that, and dealing with that, and moments like that come at unexpected moments, and it's just like, that's life. And it's different seeing this in the scope of an MCU film, because people complain there's not a lot of stakes in the MCU films, and people don't die and or don't have something really done to them, and then or if something happens and then they're just brought back. Coulson, Fury, everyone. But this film really does take stakes, and I really appreciated that. And this does hit home. The one thing I'm going to say is that I wish I felt a little more emotionally attached to some of the moments that happened in this film. But, like I said before, life, it's hard to make that connection with this being, you want to be realistic, and you also want to make this film worthy. And I think Taika Waititi finds a weird mix somewhere in there with that. And I thought he did a fantastic job directing this film. And boy, do you get his tone throughout. This is such an offbeat oddity of dry, dark humor. And I just loved it, because that's my kind of humor. I'm very dry, deadpan kind of humor. And I thought this film hit that perfectly. And when I found out this film was 80% improv, you can tell. And I think everybody comes to play, though. And boy, do they come to play in this film. The cinematographer, Javier Aguirre-Robe. Hopefully I got that right. This film is gorgeous. Oh my god, the color palette in this film is gorgeous. There are some shots that were breathtaking and beautiful, and the style of the shots were crazy, and they did something different and made it very ethereal, and looks like some kind of very artsy painting. And it's just like, I want to cover my room in these shots, and they were so cool. And especially, like, you see it in the trailer. If you can't get what I'm talking about, go back to the trailer and see the parts where it has Hela fighting the Valkyrie. There's a couple of times where you see something like that, and it's just breathtaking. And overall, like, the action as well, there's a couple of moments, and I'm nitpicking because if anybody's watched any of my reviews of any film with action, you're going to know I'm a snob about this. But overall, I loved the action. I thought it was well staged and well shot. I saw everything, and the action sequences were really cool. And I finally felt like, yeah, Thor's the real god of thunder right here. And boy, did he bring the lightning. Oh my god. So much fun. And then we have our writers, by committee, but I'm going to read them anyway. Eric Pearson, Craig Kyle, and Christopher Yost. This story is really interesting. And I think overall they do a good job of balancing everything. You do have some like meatier characters or actors, honestly, who are big names that don't get a whole lot to do. And like Doctor Strange pops up for a little bit. I enjoyed his brief cameo. And then you have the Warriors 3 and Heimdall, and they get some of them small moments. And like, could they have been better used or not really had to be included? But I think the story was really interesting. And once you hit Sakaar, what a unbelievably realized world. And the story that they bring about in Ragnarok is so interesting. And I'm not going to spoil anything because there's some things I don't want to bring up, but it feels different than most MCU films. Yeah, is there a big third act, but resolution and how things are handled are very different. And I really appreciated that. And where this film goes, I think is really cool and interesting and offbeat and different than most MCU films, and I appreciated that about this film. Characters. Thor's amazing. For once, in one of his own movies, he is the best character. Oh my god. You really get to flesh him out, and you get to see Loki go to different places. Could we have gotten a little more fleshed out Hela? Maybe a little bit, but I really appreciated her, and I'll talk about the acting in a second, but as a character, I did enjoy her, and oh, Valkyrie, you were fantastic, and was the Grand Master even written? Honestly, because I'm pretty sure they're just like, you know what, we need somebody to rule this place. Hey, Jeff Goldblum, come on down, do it. And I don't think he had a single line of dialogue written for him, and I think he just went there. And the Grandmaster was fantastic, and Hulk. Oh, the Hulk. Finally getting some characterization was fantastic. Bruce Banner pops up for a little bit, but Hulk actually talks, has some personality. It's like, you go. I actually enjoy you. And you have some small moments with Odin. But overall, I thought there were some really cool, interesting characters in this film. And Korg stole this movie. Soft-spoken, Rockman, who was so much fun. And I'll talk more about him when I talk about the acting. We'll get there in a minute. The dialogue, so witty. And yeah, there's some moments of like, there's some exposition. Need to get that out there. Need to explain some things. But the dialogue in this was so witty, so outrageous, and so odd. But it was so amazing. And I loved it. And honestly, the themes of this, really dealing with what it means to be part of a community, honestly, and a society, and also taking responsibility for rule and governing a people. And I thought there was some very interesting things that they dealt with in this film that I wasn't going to expect from this film. But I thought that there was some depth to this film. It wasn't just skating on the surface. There are some stakes. Shit happens. Really does. And I think this film did a really good job of that. Oh, and I come to the composer, Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo. The music in this film made me want to go buy the vinyl the second that it comes out because, oh my god, this soundtrack. Not only did it use the Immigrant Song multiple times to perfection, the music is so 80s. This film, the tone of this film is an 80s film, 100% made in 2017. This film could have been released in the 80s and just people are like, where did the special effects come from? But like, this feels so much like an 80s movie, and the score of this is amazing. Using that like 80s techno-y kind of music, a lot of synthesizers and everything, and it was beautiful, it was awesome. Makes me want to finish Stranger Things, which got through 6 episodes, almost there, and oh man, it just felt, this film was so fully realized in itself, And then we're going to get to the acting. Chris Hemsworth really brought his A game here. It's the best I've ever seen Chris Hemsworth. His humor, his drama, his presence, everything fantastic. Tom Hiddleston did a really good job as Loki. He honestly could sleepwalk through this now, but like he's still coming to play and having his moments. Kate Blanchett, oh, did she ham it up in this film? Wow. And she was glorious. You could just see the charisma like pouring from her as she's going through this film. And oh, did she bring it? And she was amazing. And I would love to see her more in these films as Hela. Tessa Thompson really brought her A game and was the real MVP of this film. And I thought she did a fantastic job of having a lot of fun with this character. Jeff Goldblum was the most Jeff Goldblum you can get, and it was so amazing. It was perfect. I don't have to say anything else. He just did an amazing job. And then you have Mark Ruffalo does a fantastic job. He gets a lot to work with as a Hulk, and I thought he did a fun job with that. And then, like I mentioned before, I was going to come back to Korg. Oh, you Taika Waititi, popping up in your own movie and stealing the show from everybody. Because just imagine a very large, intimidating-looking rock monster with Taika Waititi's voice, and you know, I'm Korg, and I'm a stone man, and you want to start a rebellion with me? And he just, he's such a nice guy, nice rock guy, and some of the things that came out of his mouth, I'm just like, you go Taika Waititi, this is why I love you. And God, if he makes Akira, I will flip out, and I'll see that movie opening night. I'm at that level with Taika Waititi. You go, sir. You're probably going to be now in my top 10 favorite directors of all time if you keep this up, because you're just amazing. And I'll stop schmoozing all over him. Now, my final thoughts, this is the funniest and oddest of all the MCU films, and boy, does this soar right to the top. And this is up there with Civil War as my two favorite MCU films, and I can understand where this film might turn some people off because it is very odd and very weird, but this was everything I wanted it to be and really hit home to me. And I am going to give Thor Ragnarok, you know what, screw it, I'm giving it an A+.